Beauty of the Sea is a fitting name, describing a beautiful water nymph, locally worshipped by some Armenians, as a water deity, but not generally regarded as such. Together with her sisters, Beauty of the Air and Beauty of the Earth, she's regarded as a powerful force of nature, the trio of nymphs presiding over the earth, water, and air kingdom and respective living creatures associated with them. Some correlations between the concept of the three beauties exist with the Greek concept of three worlds, of heaven, earth, and underworld, with the water beauty representing the abyss of water as well as the mysterious, dark otherworld. Some scholars link the beauty of the water with Greek sea god Poseidon, with beauty of the earth being linked with Hades, the lord of underworld, and beauty of the air with Zeus, the presiding god. But these similarities seem to end at their attributes. There's not much info to base the claim that one was influenced by the other though. Rather than being on par with the gods, she and her sisters appear next to the nymphs or rusalkas when it comes to religious importance, yet the ambiguity surrounding her and her attribute being solely the element of water, make her unique among other mythological nymphs, and same could be said for the other two.
The Chalcedra is a mighty demon related to both storms, water and fire, representing raw destruction, chaos, discord and conflict. Most often seen as a phalam serpent or many-headed dragon, she is the nemesis of Drang, a deity of light and benevolence. When the weather turns foul, black clouds gather and heavy storms break, the evil Chalcedra is believed to be in the vicinity. A Drang can counter her destructive power, driving the storms away, giving him a fame and praise among humans, who consider him a local hero. This malevolent dragon could not only cause storms and rain, she could bring earthquakes, wildfires, landslides, tsunamis, floods, and generally every natural cataclysm you can think of. Chalcedra can do it all and hence was greatly feared but also respected. Her threat was so severe, other local deities also tried to defeat her, like Daughter of Sun and Moon, who though unable to defeat her, is able to mark her chosen ones, so they cannot be hurt by the monster. Chalcedra could also transform into a beautiful woman and wouldn't shy away from using this ability to seduce and manipulate humans. Eventually, a local hero, like Daughter of Sun and Moon or Drang, are said to slay her, but she always eventually comes back to life. As frightening as she is not your classic pure evil. Whenever this weather dragoness takes human form to inhabit certain village, as long as she lives there, every member of the community will have great fortune and riches. Maybe she's not all bad after all?
The Lubija is Albanian storm demon, locally referred to as weather deity, albeit one of malevolent nature. Her ability to turn into a ferocious serpent of dragon, her voracious appetite as well as volatile, dangerous personality made her a force to be reckoned with, feared by some, worshipped by others. She could be a beautiful woman, as well as a dangerous dragon, and her shape-shifting ability reflected the unpredictable, beautiful but deedily, face of nature and its various elements and cataclysms. Lubija was said to live in a beautiful and lush garden, an interesting twist from most of the other aquatic spirits on the list. But like many other, she could cause an incredible damage to the community using her weather-manipulating powers. Like many weather and water spirits, she demanded sacrifices to be appeased and the lingering cataclysm to stop. The difference is, this ferocious female dragon demanded human sacrifice, and her favorite snack were allegedly virgin women's decapitated heads. Let's just say, she's not an entity to fall on a bad side of. Like, ever. Charybdis is arguably the most famous Greek water monster. Saying between Scylla and Charybdis, meaning as much as between a rock and a hard piece, had become mainstream long after the famous Iliad became popular. Together with a similar sea monster, Scylla, Charybdis posed an immense threat to the sailors who attempted to cross the Strait of Messina where she was located, and such threat barely avoided Odysseus and his companions in the novel. She was living under the bottom substrate, submerged fully and covered by a small rock, in opposite to Scylla, who was living under much larger rock. It's when she emerged, when hell broke loose. Charybdis was a gargantum sea monster, who 3 times a day exited her underground domain and opened her enormous mouth filled with innumerable sharp teeth, to swallow water, creating a giant water whirlpool. This underwater tornadoes were so huge, she could swallow ships whole, just by drinking and spewing the water back. Due to this immense threat, Calypso ordered Odysseus to swim closer to Scylla and avoid Charybdis as much as he can. But as any mythological beast, she didn't just appear out of nowhere. Charybdis, as monstrous as she is, was indeed a daughter of sea god, Poseidon. In one of the myths, she sided with her father, against her own paternal uncle Zeus, using her enormous mouth to sink down a whole island. To punish her for this, Zeus sent her to the bottom of the sea, only allowing her to emerge thrice per day. Not only that, she was forever put opposite to another mighty sea monster, Scylla, as Zeus' way of making sure neither of them will be a threat to him again.
The hippocampus is a mythical aquatic horse-like being, with equine upper body and the lower body of a fish, sometimes depicted with wings, but most often, without them. Associated both with god Melkart, who was said to ride upon a winged one, as well as with sea god Poseidon, who was said to ride a chariot pulled by the hippocampi. They were a popular adornment choice for ancient Greeks. It was said that the hippocampi could live and thrive both in fresh water and in salt water, despite the great geological distance between these two kinds of water sources, pointing at their almost cosmopolitan nature. Beings similar to the Greek hippocampus were visible on Etruscan wall paintings and coats of arms and herbs in many places in both areas during the period of Middle Ages. Similar to hippocampi, beings with goat body and fish tail, or leopard body and fish tail, were also present in the ancient Greek mythology and architecture, but both much less frequently.
Naiads were water nymphs, residing in all manner of bodies of water, like streams, lakes, rivers, and so on. Wherever there was fresh water running, naiads were there. Forever youthful, they were an essential part of coming-of-age ritual for both boys and girls, where they symbolically gave away their youthful child appearance to the naiads, in order to grow into a man or woman. It was not uncommon to ritually drown animals in place of their habitation as a part of the rite too. Some naiads were also fortune-tellers, and oracles and temples of the seers could be raised in places, like ponds or springs, where naiads were believed to reside. Not all naiads were helpful, though. Many, enamored by the charm of young men from human settlements, or powerful heroes, they would often spy on the unfortunate object of their fascination, only to capture him and drown him, to be with the naiad forever. They could also be jealous and vengeful. One of them, Nomia, who had been in love with a common sheepherd, cursed her lover with permanent blindness, once she discovered he had been unfaithful to her. Another one, Salmacesis, was crazy in love with Titan Hermaphroditus, but he didn't reciprocate these feelings. Furious Naiad not only raped him, and when he tried to run away, she caught him and fused into one. Male-female intercourse being with him, so he can never escape. That's damn creepy. Though they are not goddesses, in Iliad it is said that they and other water nymphs were also present on the meeting of the divine before Zeus. Hence, they may be considered as local goddesses, some beings akin to genii loci.
Unlike the naiads, who could be anything from kind to cruel, the nereids symbolized everything kind, pure and good about the water, and such was their character too. It was said that they were the daughters of Nereus, a sea god known as Old Man of the Sea, and were said to be 50 in total. The Greek myths are notorious for recording their kindness and good nature. Not many myths talk about them. The most mention they get in the Iliad, where they offered their help to the Argonauts in the famous quest for the Golden Fleece. They had a form of a beautiful humanoid woman, dressed in white silk robes, trimmed with gold, with branches of red coral entwined in their long hair. As most marine spirits, these beautiful ladies also live in an underwater abode. In their case, the myths point out the Aegean Sea as a place of their dwelling, with a mystical golden palace as their residence. They inhabit along with their father. But even Nereids weren't all sunshine and rainbows. When Cassiopeia boasted how her daughter Andromeda was supposedly so much more beautiful than all the Nereids, they obviously were pissed out, and so much so, they said it to Poseidon, who in his fury demanded Andromeda to be sacrificed and eaten by the Kraken. I guess it gives a bit of a twisted take on the whole beat the dog until it bites back stuff, lol.
Oceanids were innumerable daughters of a pair of Titans, both related to the waters. Their father was Oceanus and their mother, Tethys. Oceanus, as his name suggests, was a god of ocean, or what was described in Greek texts as a world-encircling river, while Tethys was a sea goddess. It was not a stretch of the imagination that children born to these two would also hold some dominion or affinity over bodies of water. As minor water deities, Oceanids and their brothers, the river gods were seen as personification and embodiment of natural bodies of water on earth, like springs in the case of female deities. According to Hesiod, they were everywhere and were the servants of both water and earth. Many considered them as sacred nymphs, and the mythological sources do not categorize them as strictly tied to the water only, but to all manner of supernatural phenomena. For example, Metis, Zeus' first wife, personified the aspect of intellect too. While their divine brothers have been associated with large rivers, the major river Styx, the mythical underworld river, were associated with Oceanids. Water was not their only domain. Oceanids were said to keep watchful eye on the children, both divine and human, and they have this job appointed by Zeus himself. But the beautiful nymphs didn't just watch over the children. Many of them also gave birth to them. Some, like aforementioned Metis, the mother of Hera, were wives, lovers, or mothers of many deities. As important beings to be on good terms with, ancient sailors tend to offer sacrifices of wine to them before going on the sea.
Scylla wasn't born a monster. She wasn't born destructive either. This frightening beast started her life as a beautiful nymph, whose allure enamored many. She was said to be born somewhere between Calabria and Sicily, the latter which later inherited her name. Her heritage is not clear. Some say her father was Tyrrhenus, or Phorcys, both strong deities associated with water. Others claim she was the daughter of Trinus, the sea god akin to Triton. Others claim that she was Poseidon's daughter with goddess Crates. Yet other scholars claim it was Hecate who was her mother instead. What we know for sure that at some point in her regular nymph life, a man appeared. This man was Glaucus, a legendary mortal who was transformed into a powerful oracle god of the seas. The love between him and Scylla was mutual, but the young god was attractive to more than the beautiful nymph alone. A popular sorceress, Circe, was furiously in love with Glaucus and couldn't stand the idea of him living a happy life with another woman he loves. Jealous of him, she casted a curse onto Scylla, transforming her into a monster. Circe sneaked into a pond in which Scylla always bathed and poured a magical potion that transformed the poor nymph into a monstrous entity with tentacles and 6 dog faces growing from her waist. This transformation shocked the nymph, who ran amok out of her mind and was imprisoned under a large rock, right opposite of Charybdis, so she cannot hurt anyone anymore. Still, 3 times a day she could rise from her marine prison, and in her frightening form, she attacked Odysseus, killing many of his crew members when they attempted to sail past her, to avoid meeting with Charybdis' monstrous mouth. Another time, she encountered and tried to kill Heracles, a famed demigod hero, but have been killed by him. Heartbroken by this, her father, Phorcys, brought her back to life.
Despite the popular belief that sirens and mermaids are the same beings, it's far from true. While mermaids are humanoids with fish traits, the sirens are humanoids with bird traits, including mighty long and wonderful wings. Made the most popular by the famous Odyssey epic, where they sang to the crew of Odysseus's ship and their voice was so alluring it could literally hypnotize a man to jump into waters after them. To prevent it, the crew shut their ears with wax and tied Odysseus to a pole, so he couldn't throw himself in the depths. Ancient Greek pointed out that they originate from the desolate islands, and later on, Christian missionaries bastardized their concept, to describe them as the wives of fallen angels who God casted into the sea. Which, seriously, makes zero sense if you ask me. You don't just evolve into different species, because you were wooed by a deceptive spirits, not to mention, the punishment would be just too cruel, like these women were used for fuck's sake. Original accounts don't speak much about them. They seem to see sirens as just another non-human spirits that were yet another threat to the legendary hero's journey and didn't elaborate on them further. Honestly, many Greek spiritual beings got the same treatment. Other Greek sources, like famous Sophocles, list them as daughters of sea god Phorcys, while Euripides claims that sirens are daughters of the earth goddess, related to the mythical abyss.
The lack of a set origin story by original myth researchers led to countless of theories. No wonder Christian missionaries came up with their own theory, although it's important to remember that these theories came much later, and the Greek records about the beautiful, alluring bird ladies predate first Christian mention of them for millennia. Greeks didn't consider sirens as dangerous only. The lore of Persephone's life claims that she had many kind sirens for faithful friends and companions. It is said that her mother, Demeter, gave wings to the sirens, upon her daughter being captured by Hades, so they can search for her together. But I guess lazy Christian missionaries didn't care enough to read into this, or they wouldn't talk shit about sirens being alleged wives or descendants of fallen angels, cause yes, they couldn't decide on that part either. Another legend is very tragic. A group of sirens had been challenged by the muses for a singing contest, and despite their inhuman talent, they lost and as a twisted punishment, got their precious feathers plucked off. Seriously? Punished for losing? That's just cruel.